welcome to I Love Making Pretty Things. My name is Amanda and I love making pretty things. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. Actually, it's going to be a lot different because we're not going to be talking about any kind of crafts. Well, we'll probably be talking about them, but I have nothing to show you. I'm not going to talk about anything that I'm going to be doing or want to do, but I'm pretty sure by the title of the video, you'll know what this is all about. So I thought I would just take a few minutes and just introduce me to you and talk about me because I love to talk, and why not talk about me? I briefly introduced myself in my first craft cast, but I thought I'd go a little more in depth and just talk about who I am, what I do, why I do it, and see where this goes, you know? So I have a list of scribbled down questions or just points of interest that I want to touch on. We'll see how many I get through, and we'll just kind of go from there. First off, just a general introduction talking about me in just my personal life. So I am 48 years old, or as my bestie Cindy over at the Roomie Mill said a few months ago, she's 35 plus 12. Her age is an equation. My age is now going to be an equation. I am not going to be 48. I am going to be 35 plus 13. I think that's 48. We're going to go with it. I'm 35 plus 13. It sounds so much better, doesn't it? You're a genius, Cindy. You're a genius for that. Love it. So I am 48. I am married. My husband and I have been married for almost 12 years. We've been together for 15 years. We don't have any children together. However, I have 2 children and he has 2 children, but together we always just say we each have 4 kids because that's just what it's not his and hers, it's ours. So we have 4 kids, and the ages of our children are 30, 28, 22, and 19. So the 19-year-old is, we're about there. We're so close. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. She's about to go away. But she'll probably come back. But that's okay. That's okay. So we also have 2 grandchildren. You know, I always talk about my grands. I can't help it. It's a requirement of being a Gigi. That's just what I have to do. So my grand number 1 is 10. You will either hear me refer to him as grand number 1 or my little monster. I will probably say that as well. That's his nickname that I gave him many, many years ago. And grand number 2, which you'll hear me say grand number 2, or either Pumpkin or Punky, one of the two I'll probably say. She is a little over 3 months old, so we have quite the range in the grandchildren. So as of now, we just only have those 2. Now, we also have a menagerie of animals in this house. We have 4 dogs, 2 cats, and 9 fish. Yes. Yes. We run what I lovingly refer to as a senior citizen home for dogs because our dogs are 17, 15, 14, and the baby of the group is 12. So, yeah, we have our hands full for sure. The 17-year-old is blind and she's a diabetic. Poor little girl. I have to call her my little Roomba because she just runs into things. But she's been with me about a third of my life. So, you know, other than that, she's doing great. For a blind dog, though, somebody explained to me how she can find a hidden bone or a treat that one of the other dogs have hidden. Like in the cushions hidden. She can find that somehow. I don't understand it, but she can do it. So then our 15-year-old, she's a pit bull, and the 17-year-old is a dachshund. The 15-year-old is a pit bull, and we rescued her about a little over 5 years ago, and she's just really had a hard life, and you can just tell by looking at her that she was, you know, really did not have a very good life before us, and she just does her own thing, and, you know, she's deaf, though. and her eyesight is starting to go. So that's interesting, having a blind dog and then a deaf dog. So our neighbors think that we're crazy when we're outside because we're trying to, either say, come on, come on, come on, and make noise for the one to come to, or the other one, we're smacking on the deck so she feels the vibration to come in. Our neighbors think we're crazy, but what do you do? Then the 14-year-old, she's just attached to my husband, like ridiculously. She adores him. That's what I say. She adores him. It's kind of, yeah, I'm the one that feeds her, but yet she just loves him. And then the baby of the group, the 12-year-old, the 14-year-old, she is a Beagle mix. And the 12-year-old is the boy, the only boy. And he is a Spaniel mix, Spaniel Dachshund mix. And he is, he's a little jerk. He's such a jerk, but he's our jerk, we just love him, but he loves us. He loves us, and he just tolerates everyone else, So those were our dogs. And then we have 2 cats, which are actually outside working barn cats that we adopted when we lived on the farm. But then when we moved, however many years ago, 8 years ago, whatever, they came with us, and now they are inside. The only thing they are working on is tearing the carpet from my stairs and ruining my furniture. Those are the only things that they're working on. But they're part of the family. And then the fish, they're our newest acquisitions. We got them. Grand number 1 wanted a fish tank, so we got some fish. And then we thought it was going to be a good idea. But he likes it, so that's all that matters. Ironically, you know who else really likes it? One of the cats. Like, she has a stool. We have a stool kind of sitting over there, and she sits there and watches her fish all the time. Like, I would have thought that maybe she would try to like paw at the tank or something, but nope. She just sits there. She's perfectly content just to watch them go. Okay, whatever floats your boat. Let's see here. And so I talked about where do I live? I live in the United States. I live in the northeast part of Indiana in the Midwest. So that's really all I got to say about that. And I do work full time. I work about 45 hours a week, and then I come home, and that's when I'm doing all the family things, and I try to get my crochet time in, and just try to find time to do the videos, which kind of, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So how about my craft interests and when did I start crafting? So I probably started crafting about 10 years ago, I'm going to say. 10, 12 years ago. When the older kids, when the 2 older kids were younger, they were very heavily involved in sports. And so I spent a lot of time at the ball diamond, at the hockey rink, at the soccer field, whatever sport that they had available to them, they wanted to play. And so we really spent a lot of time in sports. Well, once they grew up and grew out of the sports, I found myself with a lot of time on my hands. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Because again, I don't do well sitting still, or I can't sit still. Maybe that's what I should say. I can't sit still. So I needed to find something. So I thought, I am going to learn to knit. And here's why I chose knit. I've always, my whole life, wanted to learn how to crochet. So my mom's best friend, since she was a little one, we always called her Aunt. She crocheted. And now, I'm a child from the 80s. Remember, I'm 35 plus 13, so I'm a child of the 80s. And in the 80s, they had like those really frilly crochet dolls and like the toilet paper covers and all the things. And I wanted one of those crochet doll babies so badly. The creepy dolls that sit in your room and like stare at you. Yeah, I really wanted one of those. But I never got one, and I wanted to learn how to crochet so bad. And it just never clicked. I could chain kind of, and I could kind of make a shape. I mean, it wasn't even like because I would never, grab the last stitch in the row. I was really having a hard time seeing it. And I tried several times throughout my life, probably 3 or 4 different times to learn how to crochet, and it just never clicked. So I said, heck with that. I'm going to learn how to knit. I have no idea why I chose that, but I said, I purchased a book, and it came with a DVD. Remember, this is, 12 plus years ago. So it came with a DVD, which I never used, but I thought I'm going to look on YouTube. And so that is what started my whole YouTube journey as far as watching goes, because I have, figured out YouTube University, whatever you need to know, it's all there. So I took to YouTube. I am very much a person that learns by watching and doing versus reading. So I can read something, I can read a pattern, but I can read the directions, and it's going to take me a little bit longer for it to click versus watch somebody that will tell me the directions. I'm going to be like, oh yeah. So YouTube was fantastic for me. So I was able to learn how to knit, and I knit for probably 3 or 4 years. And loved it. I loved it. I called the yarn crafting my winter craft because for whatever reason, I tended to only do the yarn crafting in the winter time for whatever reason. And then one day I came across a suggested for you video. So when I saw this suggested for you video, it was on how to crochet a shower loofah out of cotton yarn. I thought, you know what? I'm going to give that a go. So I had a crochet hook. I don't recall if I had the correct size, or maybe I went and I purchased one. That part I don't remember. I can't believe I had the right size, but I did it, and it whipped up so fast. And I don't know, when I knit, I'm a thrower. So I throw the yarn with my right hand, and I can't remember that. I think that's continental, or maybe that's English. I can't remember which style is which. So whichever the one is, I throw with my right hand with the yarn. So, but in crochet, obviously you're holding the yarn all in one hand. And I didn't think that I would be able to pick it up very quickly, because I just trying to knit, with that style of holding the yarn all in your one hand did not work for me. But for whatever reason, it clicked. Boom. And now I've been crocheting, and I've been crocheting ever since. I prefer crochet over knit because I am all about the instant gratification. I crochet much faster than I knit. It takes me much less time to complete something that I crochet versus knit, but I still do enjoy knitting. I still, the only thing different now with my yarn crafting is I don't consider it a winter sport, if you will. I would say probably about 3 years ago, I really started finding that was what I wanted to do, because that gave me the satisfaction of doing something, accomplishing something, but yet still being able to relax while I'm making something. So that's how I kind of got into crafting. That's how I got into yarn craft. But along the way, I've also picked up so many different things. I have done so many different crafts. I do all kinds of crafts, and I love all kinds of crafts. I love paper crafting, but I don't love making cards or really have a reason. I'll go through and I'll get my paper crafting stuff out, and I'll make a bunch of just generic thank you cards or happy birthday cards, just so I have some on hand. But I love making paper crafts, but it's not I just kept going back to the yarn. I love that's my first love. So I would keep going back to that. I also love doing, work with my Cricut, making t-shirts and making different things, all kinds of different things with my Cricut, which then turned into the sublimation. And I've done the tumblers, the epoxy tumblers and epoxy keychains, and then which also turned into the UV resin and smaller objects and with the resin. And I enjoy doing all of that, but I just keep coming back to knitting and crochet. And I think it's because I don't have to sit up on my craft room and hole up here. I can feel like I'm still being a part of the family what time I'm doing something and being productive. So, but I have all the stuff in case I want to do any of that stuff. Like I am looking right behind you. There are almost floor to ceiling bins of stuff. I've got fabric for sewing. And well, we've already talked about how I sew. But I can make an end product, okay? I can fumble my way through it, but I do enjoy making sewing items. So I have fabric. I'm looking at my bins. I have fabric. I've got crochet stuff. I've got crafting for paper crafts, and I've got, you know, the resin and the sublimation and the Cricut stuff, and I've got vinyl over here on the wall. So I've got all kinds of craft stuff. But it's also nice that if I see something that I would like to do or make, that most likely I have everything that I would need. That's a big fat lie. Come on. That is such a big fat lie, because what's going to happen is I'm going to see something and then I'm going to be like, oh no, I can make that. I can totally make that. And then I'm going to have to buy all the new things to make whatever it is that I want to make. And I probably have the equivalent of whatever I'm going to buy in my craft room already. And so I'm going to go and I'm going to purchase all of this stuff to make this item that I could have bought for like a quarter of the price for what I just spent. It's crafting math. Does anybody have problems with crafting math? Like, make that make sense to me. I can buy a tumbler for $50, or I can go and spend $250 to buy all this stuff to make it. That's what Amanda likes to do. But I also think of it as a collection. This is my collection. I like to collect yarn. I like to collect my craft stuff. But then I also like to know that I have it here if I ever just want to spend a day and play with paper, or, you know, play with resins and make jewelry or whatever the case is. So that's really how I got into crafting and all of the different crafts that I do. What else am I going to do? What is my inspiration, or where do I find inspiration for my crafting projects? All over. I mean, just the typical places. Usually YouTube, because I'm usually watch somebody and they make it and I'm like, I got to make one of those. And of course, Pinterest. Love looking for that. And then, you know, I'll just see something, but the majority of the time it's on YouTube. I see that somebody's talked about something, but I might also have seen something and I'm like, oh, you know, I could probably make that, or I could do that, or I wonder what that would involve doing. Or somebody will send something to me and say, hey, you know, can you do that? Which I'm not a fan of, and I'm just not a fan of. Which I guess kind of leads me into my next topic, is a business. Will I, or do I, or am I doing this as a business? No, I do not do any kind of crafting as a business. I enjoy crafting. I want to craft on my terms. And so what happens when I say that I'm going to, even when I have somebody that has commissioned me to make something, I don't enjoy it. I usually dread getting it. Matter of fact, I have 2 sweatshirts and a cup that I'm supposed to make that I have been holding for quite a while. I mean, I would be embarrassed to say like how long, once I figured out how long it really has been. I'm not looking forward to it. And I don't want to craft, and nobody wants to do something that they don't want to do, right? So I'm not going to look forward to it, or I'm not looking forward to it because I'm not going to enjoy it. It'll be nice seeing the finished product, obviously, but it's not, I don't want to have to do something. Now, I kind of thought about, well, maybe like the cup cozies that I had done for Litza's cow. I thought of just doing different little items and just putting those items for sale in my Etsy shop. So, you know, not necessarily taking orders, but here's what my inventory is. Here's what I have for sale. Here you go. I could maybe see doing that maybe, but usually that turns into somebody asking, hey, I saw it, but it's no longer there. Do you think you can make it? And I just don't want to do it as a business. I enjoy crafting. I enjoy crocheting. I enjoy knitting. And I just want to do it for funsies. I don't want to have to do it for a job. The same thing with YouTube. This will never be a career for me. It's fun to sit here and talk with you guys and hang out with you. I'm not looking to mass, millions of followers and be, an influencer. That's not going to be me. But I love talking about things. I love talking, and I love talking about crafting and talking with people and meeting new friends. I enjoy that part of it, but I just don't want this to be a business. At least not at this point in my life. Will that change? Maybe, but I seriously doubt it. So, I really think about that pretty much sums it up about all of my questions that I have. But if you have any other questions that you would like me to answer or anything that I haven't talked about, feel free to ask. Depending on how personal it is, I may or may not answer, but by all means, if there's anything that you are wondering about me, just drop me a note, put it in the comments below, send me a message, let me know, and I'll be happy to answer it or not. But it was wonderful getting to talk about myself and having you learn more about me. So I would love to learn more about you guys as well. To my new friends and old, remember, you are the only one in the whole wide world. So be the very best one that you can be. Bye-bye.